We've also tried to inculcate that other aspect of work in Genesis, that God looked on what he had created and saw that it was good, and upon mankind and saw that it was very good. True liberal learning starts with the recognition of the goodness of creation and the particular goodness of the human person. Masculine. The Heights is a boys' school with a faculty of men, needless to say, a rarity in today's world, which sees masculinity as a pathological condition. But at the Heights, strength and toughness, aggressiveness and risk-taking are valued and fostered, as can be seen in such things as Capture the Flag, Bull in the Ring, Thud, the Mountaineers, the way we put our hearts into sports. We even play dodgeball here. A number of years ago, I remember sitting next to one of these young men, Matt Ondeck, in this very gym, at a very exciting basketball game against Georgetown Prep, in which these qualities were being well exhibited. Now, Matt is a person of no guile and great enthusiasm. Matt turned to me and said, "This is almost like a story." I pondered that remark and realized that stories were not good when they were realistic, but that life was good when it was like a story. I later realized that the masculine vocation was to see life as an adventure story, and more importantly, to help others see life as an adventure story. The feminine vocation involves a very different kind of story, a romance, I would say, but both are necessary to a good and healthy society. Chesterton says that an adventure is merely an inconvenience rightly considered. We have all seen, perhaps, how leadership has turned the camping trip from hell into an exceedingly memorable experience. This is but a metaphor for what a real man does. In the lives of St. Maximilian Kolbe in the death camps, and of Blessed Jose Maria during the violence of the Spanish Civil War, and Pope John Paul II when he was Cardinal Wojtyła of Krakow, we see examples of this kind of masculine leadership. Masculinity involves courage, the willingness to face death with some good. To encourage others is to restore morale, a word related to morality. In a demoralized world, in both senses of its root, a masculine love of adventure is necessary. Intimate related to this is an appreciation that this life is not it. There is an afterlife. That's why I very much like the speech of Maximus in that recent movie, Gladiator, who exhorts his troops and says, "And if you find yourself alone with the sun on your face and fields around you, do not worry, for you are already dead and in Elysium." Cheerful. Anyone who comes to the Heights sees that it is a cheerful place. It is also clear that it is just not the physiological cheerfulness of healthy animals, but something much deeper. Now, what is the cause of this joy? First, it is a sense that life is a gift. Think of the joy that a great gift causes. A good person is moved to gratitude. And gratitude, as Aristotle tells us, is the sign of a noble man. What greater gift is there than existence in the world around us? The recognition that we do not create ourselves, nor do we deserve the good things we have, is tremendously liberating. Dante has one group in hell explain their presence there with these words: "We were sad in the sweet air which the sun had gladdened." At the Heights, one also hears the marvelous reality that we are indeed children of God, raised to a supernatural destiny. And this, of course, is an even greater gift. A spirit of gratitude opens us up to others and allows us to have real friendships, as opposed to the superficial relationships that commonly parade under that name. So we've looked back on the last 23 years of the school and its non-essential, and more importantly, its essential features. It was the ideal we held that propelled the school forward in the midst of various difficulties. It is this ideal that must be remembered if the school's history is to be understood. Now I invite you young men to project yourselves 23 years ahead into your futures, where commencement, as the name suggests, is properly oriented in that direction. You will all be around 40 years old in 23 years, except Matt here. The age when the ancient philosophers thought that a man entered the peak of his powers. Do you think most men of 40 whose lives are dull and mediocre, self-absorbed and devoid of meaningful relationships, chose to be that way when they were your age, or that they are but the victims of circumstance? No. They drifted and slid unconsciously into that mediocre state. They are people who did not embrace an ideal for their lives. There is no other way for a person to become truly himself than to embrace an ideal. Now, as you enter a phase of intense preparation for a career and later marriage and family, it is the time to resolve upon what sort of person you wish to be. For as Aristotle said, the beginning is more than half of the whole. We have tried to give you the rudiments, but you must make them your own. Study to improve your loving knowledge of the world, so that you might better serve. Have a sense of adventure combined with a sense of responsibility for others. Give thanks to God often and to all who have been your benefactors, your parents, your teachers, your friends. Dare to be men, hard-working, adventurous, great-souled, generous, and cheerful men. Now, one thing I have learned in my 30 years as a teacher is that one has to vary one's approach to get one's point across. Consequently, I have composed a poem for the graduates. I have chosen the form of the villanelle rather than my usual sonnet form because of the repetition this form requires. But one of the things I've learned with this class is that you can't repeat something often enough with some of them. The villanelle originated as a rustic form in Sicily in the 13th century. It blossomed in France in the 16th century and in England in the 19th century. 20th century examples include Dylan Thomas's Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night, Elizabeth Bishop's The Art of Losing Isn't Hard to Master, and Theodore Roethke's I Wake to Sleep and Take My Waking Slow. So I present a commencement villanelle for the class of 2001. A stage of life for you now ends. We gather here to show our pride. On what you'll do, so much depends. And each of us his wishes sends to stay forever by your side, as this life stage for you now ends. With knowledge, wisdom, humor, friends, you venture to a world that's wide. On what you'll choose, so much depends. You cannot know which way life wends, or where your future may abide. A stage of life, secure, now ends. You each must face the things life sends, and meet them pale and fortified. On how you meet them, much depends. The noble man each day contends against his sloth and lust and pride. So must you too, as this stage ends, to sacrifice, to make amends. In God each day your faith confide, for on his love your life depends. An epic hero spends and spends his total self until he's died. A new thing starts when his life ends. It springs anew what he defends, the good despised, the truth denied. So on his valor much depends. The message that this poem commends is oftentimes just put aside, that something starts when something ends, and on that start, so much depends. Thank you.